Germany hosted the G-20 summit over the weekend. That's the meeting of the leaders from the world's top 20 economies. And it was one of the biggest meetings that US President Donald Trump, biggest international meetings that President Trump has attended so far. So it's a meeting that had a lot of attention. Now, ahead of the meeting, Germany really worked hard to highlight its free trade credentials. Hamburg is Germany's busiest port, sitting there on the River Elbe. It's Europe's second busiest port after Rotterdam. And then in the run-up to the meeting, Europe and Japan announced the outlines of a new trade deal that would create a trade bloc that would rival NAFTA to be one of the largest in the world. So in the run-up, Europe and Germany was really doing a lot to put itself forward as the new leader of the free world, or at least the new leader of free trade, an alternative economic leader to the United States. Now, and in some ways this meeting went more smoothly than expected. Ahead of the meeting, Donald Trump finally promised to defend NATO's European members in case of an attack, something he'd refused to do earlier. Also at the meeting, he signed up to a watered-down version of a declaration in support of free trade, but again, that's something that the United States had refused to do earlier. So, some things that European leaders are probably fairly happy about and may well have gone more smoothly than they expected. But America's isolation was still clear. It was most obvious in America's refusal to back the Paris climate change agreement. 19 of the 20 G20 members signed a declaration supporting that, but America refused to. Now, if China is being hailed as a savior of the environment and America is being condemned as the great villain, there's something wrong with the way people are understanding the situation. However, that is how it's being portrayed to a whole lot of people in Europe, and the whole situation is being used to stir up a lot of anger against the United States and really isolate the United States. But perhaps more significant than the meeting itself is what happened around the meeting. The press dubbed what happened in Hamburg with just absolutely massive riots, an orgy of violence. Germany had called in 20,000 police to try and maintain control, but they still failed. The foreign leaders, including President Trump's wife, were kept in lockdown as there were violent protests going on outside. The mob looted stores, burned out a supermarket or two, they burned cars, attacked police with rocks and bottles and fireworks, and just generally turned the whole city into a war zone. Nearly 500 police officers were injured, and the protests would have easily caused millions of dollars in property damage. Now, Germans are not at all happy about this and about what went on there. They're demanding, or just about all across the German press, they're demanding swift, decisive action from their leaders, and leaders from both sides of the political spectrum are really just trying to outdo each other in promises to provide that swift, decisive action. They want an EU database of far-left activists. They're talking about shutting down far-left institutions or organizations that were supporting these kind of protests. The Interior Minister even said that these rioters are as bad as neo-Nazis or Islamist extremists and terrorists. Now, I think the political response that has come after those riots does show a commendable devotion to law and order. It's refreshing to see a nation not give these protesters room to destroy or make excuses for them the way we see in the United States. But it's going to be interesting to see exactly where this leads, especially in the run-up to these crucial elections, general elections in Germany scheduled for September. And finally, another important meeting that's coming up. Tomorrow, on the eve of Bastille Day, France's national holiday, Germany and France are set to announce their first concrete proposals to just really demonstrate this new solid partnership that they have in the wake of the election of the French President Emmanuel Macron. Exactly how significant these concrete proposals or what stage they're at in negotiations remains to be seen, but generally they're going to push Europe towards becoming more united. They're expected to produce a roadmap that would see the Eurozone integrate much more closely and work more closely together. They're planning on apparently unveiling a new proposal that would see EU countries set the same corporate tax rate across Europe. And if that goes forward, that's a massive shift in power towards the European Union, giving them power over how nations spend their taxes and what tax levels they set. However, the cooperation where these two have made the most progress, or the area where they made the most progress, is on the military. The two countries are working together on a proposal that would allow a much smaller group of European nations, around 10, work together on their military. And they're scheduled to unveil more about that tomorrow. The German Defense Minister Ursula von der Leyen, after an earlier meeting, said that we are working towards a European army.